Hello, just going to do a trade recap on UJ this week. This was one of my losers. I got stopped out for full loss on this. I think it ended up being, let me see, right at 60 pips. I lost on this, which is actually kind of steep for me. I really don't like to go much more than 30 or 40 pips risk, but I felt kind of confident in this, but it just never really kind of took off. It did initially a little bit, but my levels held decently for a little while, but it just never really kind of had the juice. And it's in a downtrend, so I can't really blame it. It's been on a pretty sustained downtrend since it made those highs around 118-ish, or 118.66. We've just been making, lower highs and lower highs, and I thought that this was a potential area for it to retrace back up a little bit. You can see price was making lower lows and kind of did a double bottom here, and then put in a higher low, and then I thought this was going to be a potential higher low from this one, and then move on up, but just didn't do that. Part of my analysis here was kind of a retest of a squeeze that had broken out and retraced back up to 115.30 areas. And it had came back up or came back down and was retesting this. I didn't get in on this little bullish candle here, this first reaction, because I had these levels down lower, the 78.6 and the my little level here, the previous support that had kind of held a couple times. It wasn't a super strong level, but it was also a level that initiated the breakout of this squeeze. You see this large bullish candle that opened, dipped down, touched the level pretty much to the pip, and then took off and broke out of the squeeze, or this consolidation corrective structure here. And it had came back down, and that was essentially my entry point, 113.59. Took a little bit of drawdown initially, about 14 pips. My stop was just below this previous low here, with one of the lows that had happened in this little triangle squeeze here. Like I said, this was a 60 pip loss for me. I typically don't like to do more than 30 or 40 pips risk. So, I wanted to kind of review this and just see if I see anything now, looking back, or for future trades, see what I could do better, reading price action wise. It just never made it back. This was the candle that I entered on, and I typically enter on a first touch unless I'm a little late to it and I can manage a retest. And this was kind of a retest. The initial levels that I wanted to enter on were never really hit initially with this little doji, reversal kind of type candle. But then the candle that I actually got filled on, this hourly candle, closed below both of these trend lines here, the squeeze lines, the squeeze trend lines, and also that little level I had. So that could have been maybe a first indication. I did, where are we at here? Initially I took a bit of drawdown, and then the candle got sucked back up, kind of indicating maybe some buying pressure stepping in. And I certainly did get, a little bit of a move. I was up about 23 pips there. This drawdown in the overnight, while I was sleeping, happened. Didn't stop me out. And then, once I saw this large, you know, bullish engulfing candle that actually finally closed back up above this area, I felt kind of confident in this trade that it was going to at least kind of go up, and I was up, almost. Let's see here. Let me try and get it lock onto my entry there. I was up nearly 40 pips at that point, which is decent. But it rolled over on me and went straight for my stop, in the next couple hours. So I don't know. I don't see a whole lot other than initially not being able to get back up above this this trend line. It found resistance there. I think perhaps maybe this breakdown here, the break below the previous low it had made in my initial drawdown period, could have maybe been a little warning sign. But all these wicks down here, these long wicks on bottom, they kind of, they tell me that there's obviously some indecision, but also that there's people buying here, or else it would follow through like this. But yeah, so I can't really see a whole lot with this trade other than it being in a natural downtrend. There was obviously points in this trade where I could have reduced my risk. Initially, after this first bounce, I could have potentially rolled my stop up to just underneath this low, in anticipation that this was the bottom. That would have greatly reduced my risk to just about 20 pips or so. So I could have done that. I would have gotten stopped out for 20 pips instead of 60, but that's I'll take that over 60 pips any day. So yeah, so that was the UJ trade that I missed. Okay, so my second loss this week was on New Zealand dollar, and this one was about a 43 pip. I'll be able to tell you exactly here. 44.6 pips is what it ended up being. The reason why I entered this trade was on the daily chart we had tapped had a third touch on a daily trend line. We were overbought on the daily chart. 4 hour was kind of overbought, or approaching overbought. And I entered on the 1 hour chart, and this was what I had kind of marked up in my levels and the reason for entering in. Initially it went great. I was filled and it pretty much immediately went in my favor. So this was that high that had, this is the daily trend line here that had been tagged, and we had a nice reaction off of that. And I missed, like this, I missed this lower high, but I was able to get in on this. That was still this, the 60. I saw the 61.8 held, never had an hourly bar close above it, and had a nice reaction off of it, and was kind of trickling back up. Had a nice little gap up over the weekend. right up into that level. And I opened this pretty much on this first touch is when I think I got in right kind of at market open. I was watching it because I was planning it. I had it already planned out that I wanted to kind of get in around this level, so I entered and immediately went into profit. I took maybe 4 or 5 pips of drawdown, maybe not even that, but it went really well for the first like day, or in the Sunday night. I got up to 43 pips profit. With it being like a daily chart, I was anticipating that this was the high. Well, this isn't a daily chart, but a daily analysis and a higher time frame analysis. I was anticipating this being the high that it had made, and we were going to make a pretty strong move down off of there. And initially 40 pips pretty easily, but come Monday morning, it kind of had a big bounce up, and actually started kind of using my entry almost as support. This level I had as previous resistance that had held, here, it broke above, and then, broke back below, and, held here, and then my entry. Yeah, it definitely broke through that, and that was holding as support now, and it continued up, went on to new highs, and stopped me out. Not by much, but it's still kind of making it's still trickling around, having a hard time breaking back down below that daily trend line there. So I'm not sure. We may be looking at a breakout and a continuation move up, so we'll have to see. Really, potentially the only thing I see that I could have maybe done or minimized was, when I woke up, Monday morning, because I get up at 2:30 Eastern. I was pretty much right around here when I woke up, and I was in, I was up 30 pips pretty much. I could have perhaps rolled my stop into profit. I do that sometimes when I get typically I do it when I get to 1-to-1 risk to reward. So if I'm at a 1-to-1, I'll typically roll my stop to break even or just into profit by like 10 pips maybe. That way, if it comes back, it's not a total loser. I get my fees covered and then a little bit. So I could have done that. I wasn't quite. I didn't quite make it to 1-to-1. See, 42. I could have done that actually. Because I did reach 1-to-1. I never closed below it, but so maybe that's something I'll have to start implementing. I know I never did get to 1-to-1 on my UJ loss. So yeah, and then perhaps once it I started seeing these seeing it use that as support, I could have potentially, just cut my losses and say, no, I think, but you always, that's the whole reason between your entry and a stop loss, to give you that wiggle room. If you start cutting your losses and then, it tanks and goes to your target, then, you cut it for nothing. So I'm hoping to, by doing these analysis videos, that I can kind of figure out a better way of potentially reading price action, and figuring out a way to minimize my losses, to reduce risk on my losses, and to potentially even come out with profit on these losses.